It'll just be, they'll post it on. You never know. Thanks for the part.
They giving me light.
I like that you
I just want to know what's Hey, Dr. Boyd.
Doing what?
We need to not alter this meeting. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to our joint meeting with the Asheville City Council and the Buncombe County Commission. So we want to thank everyone for joining us here at 200 College Street. Of course, this is where a lot of the county administrative work is done and the county commission third floor. So thanks for joining us today. And we've had a few of these joint meetings of the City Council and County Commission over the past few years, and I think they've always been, it's always great to get these two government bodies that work on so many different issues together all the time, together to kind of share some updates and information and just have a chance for some dialogue. And there are many members of both bodies speak to each other often in small groups, but it's great to get together as a whole as well from time to time. So thanks for being here on behalf of the County Commission.
And we're supposed to mention who this guy is.
That's right. And so this meeting is also going to be broadcast. We're broadcasting this live on Facebook to give sort of opportunities for social media engagement as part of the process as well. So we wanted everyone to know that.
Okay, Ronnie, thank you. So here we have on this side, we have the Asheville City Council and the County Commission, and we also have our city clerk here, Maggie Wilson is here, and Kathy Ball, our assistant city manager, and Gary Jackson, the city manager. And you have as well some folks on your side.
Right, we've
Your
got
clerk,
Kathy, our clerk, Jim Holland, our assistant city manager, and of course Mandy Stone, our county manager, along with all of our county commissioners. I also saw Senator Terry Van Dyne with us, so Senator Van
and
Dyne.
Brian Turner.
And Brian Turner. And who else? Anybody?
Dr. Mullen is here.
All right, great. Okay, well, thank you to everyone for joining us, and for those who have to drive to Raleigh to do their public service, thank you for doing that. We just have to drive downtown and have our meetings, and then we go home that night. So we really appreciate, the really long hours that you guys put into serving us at the state level. Thank you for being here.
So this is a nice opportunity for us to get together. For those of you that don't know, the chairman and I try to get together with the county manager and the city manager periodically to sort of go through issues that affect us jointly and try to think about where are areas we can work together, where can we improve our partnerships, where can we create new partnerships. And everyone doesn't get to be at the table when we have these conversations, so it's important for us to all get together with all of there's so many staff here from both sides to be able to hear all at once what kinds of things we're working on, and then hear from our elected bodies in terms of what they think we're missing out on, what we should work some more on, and so any kind of new ideas. So welcome. Now, are we doing a photo after this too?
I don't know, we have done that in the past. Are we going to do it?
Well, somebody told us
do a
that
picture?
we need to sit down for a picture.
Okay, looks like it's on. Great idea.
Yeah, thanks.
It's 42 degrees outside.
No,
We did it in the hall.
We'll do it in the
Remember?
hallway. Right behind us, and then we do that. Okay. All right, so, and I think everyone has a copy of our proposed agenda in front of us. So, I think Esther and I are going to just kind of make a few brief comments about some of the priorities of each of the two bodies. Then we're going to turn it over to Gary and Mandy to talk through a number of different current partnerships that the city and the county are both involved in and in many cases collaborating on. And then we also wanted to have an opportunity for some open discussion around potential opportunities for future places that we can work together. And a few of those topics that were identified, joint development and planning, transportation issues in the area, and then just also, we wanted to have some space for any other ideas that folks might want to put forward for discussion around initiatives we can work on in tandem. So, are there any questions about the agenda for our meeting today? Great. Why don't we jump right in then? So, I think I'm going first on the priorities. So I'll just if we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So at our meeting on December 5th, 2017, so just a couple of months ago, the County Commission reviewed and voted on approval of 6 overall priorities that we have identified to be the focus of prioritization of resources and attention for the county. And so these are the 6 items, and these are all big big issues and challenges. So most of these are very long-term in nature types of issues. But I'd like to just kind of make a few points about some of the things that the county is doing in each of these areas, and I want to read out what each of those goals that we adopted are. So in terms of affordable housing, which of course we know is a big priority for the city as well, we made it a goal to ensure comprehensive opportunities for affordable and safe housing as a foundation for healthy and thriving families and neighborhoods. And a couple of the things that we're working on to address that, one of the ones I think we're most excited about is a partnership with the city and the housing authority around the redevelopment of the Lee Walker Heights neighborhood. I know that's been a big priority for the mayor and for council over the last few years, and we're excited to be co-investing with the city to help make that happen. I think it's the biggest single investment the county's ever made in the affordable housing sector. So we were excited to see Mountain Housing get awarded the tax credits for that. One of the other things we've done is look at our land use policies to build in some additional incentives to encourage affordable housing in new developments in this, that are under the county's jurisdiction. Under the diverse community workforce, we set the goal to cultivate a robust and inclusive local economy with a diverse workforce and pipelines to jobs and education for everyone. One of the specific things that we've taken on to help advance that goal has been the creation of the Isaac Coleman Economic Community Investment Program, which has gotten started over the last year, and this year we've invested in 7 different really kind of community-led efforts to support new job opportunities, small businesses, and other opportunities in neighborhoods in the city and the county. Under the Justice Resource Support priority, the goal here is to coordinate a justice system that's efficient and effective and equitable, and which protects public safety while holistically addressing the needs of people that are involved in the system. One of the things the county has focused on there is investing in new staff and resources to work with law enforcement and our local courts to divert first-time nonviolent offenders away from incarceration and towards alternative approaches to help folks get on a better footing. Under the opioid item, of course, everyone who's here knows the scope of this gigantic challenge facing our county, and it's a nationwide problem. great complexity. And so one of the things the county has done in that area, of course, we were one of the first counties in the state to file a lawsuit against the major manufacturing and distribution companies that we believe through their, very deliberate marketing processes have really flooded communities with these highly addictive medications, in which very predictably led to this problem. And we think that the companies that contributed to the problem and have profited from it should help be co-investing with all of us as taxpayers to helping mitigate this problem. And then I think lastly, under the renewable energy topic, the county set a goal for the county to be 100% renewable in our operations by 2030, and for the county as a whole to achieve that same goal over the next 25 years. And some of the actions we've taken to work in that area, we're working on a solar farm project on a retired landfill, and we're working with great groups like the Energy Savers Network to work on weatherization of low-income families' homes. And of course, we're partnering with the city and with Duke Energy and a lot of different community groups on the Energy Innovation Task Force to look at how we can pursue these goals together. So there's a lot of other great things happening in all of these arenas. Again, they're all really complex, so we're trying to look at both short-term opportunities as well as long-term strategies. And but I wanted to touch on a few of the initiatives we've got underway. Commissioner, yeah.
I think you got from early childhood education.
I did. Thank you. Thank you very much. I sure did. And so on early childhood education, really this has been one of the main focuses of the commission over the last 12 months. And we've been convening a lot of different experts in this field who work in this industry. We have a lot of the folks who try to make the numbers work in these early childhood education facilities really struggle. It's a really financially challenging business model. We think there are some state level policies that are very harmful to our community and make it much more difficult to make those businesses work here than in most other counties based on the state's compensation formulas. So we're working to kind of advocate for changes at some of these state level policies, and we've really appreciated our state legislators, really focusing on these issues as well. And but a lot of it too is just, this is there's so much research showing that this is just one of the most important places to invest for long-term educational success. And so it's a very, it's an expensive priority to invest in, but it's one that we think is probably one of the most important investments. We've been making increased investment here, and I think we'll see that this will be one of the most significant areas of additional investment from the county over the next couple of years, as we kind of, as these strategies come into further focus and we determine the best ways to invest further in this area.
Okay.
Thank you. Did not mean to do that.
So now it's over to the Asheville City Council strategic priorities, and we will note that we have 8, which is 2 more than you had. So the City Council just had its retreat, and at the retreat is where we work on our vision, and everyone has a copy in front of them of the vision statement of the Asheville City Council, distilled down into our strategic priorities. And from this, we then piece out action items under each one of these. So we have some overlapping areas, I would say. One of the things I think us talking about our strategic priorities highlights is some of our differences in terms of the county having education, opioids. You always talk about being in the people business, so some of it is different, whereas on the city side, we both have quality, affordable housing. We both try to address equity and diversity. The city has a lot of land use focus, so the well-planned and livable community. We both overlap with our focus on the environment and having environmental initiatives and goals. The city has been investing more and more in our transportation infrastructure, and I know that's one of the things we want to talk with you all about. Trying to run a transit system that is meaningful and usable for the community. Economic development, a thriving local economy is another focus. And a connected and engaged community, which can mean a lot of things, but it means community outreach and involvement, but it also means exploring our partnership opportunities with the county, for example, and other potential partners out there. We know that alone we cannot do nearly as much as we need to, and that to be able to leverage more opportunity, we need to seek out partners to make those possibilities happen. So and the other thing I would mention is at your seats, there's a nice, I don't know who put this together, but this is really good, a Buncombe County and City of Asheville Joint Partnerships chart. So if you ever wonder, what are the things that the city and the county can do together or do together, that's a good reference to see what some of the things include. Great.
Thanks. So I think we'll turn it over to Gary and Mandy next. But before we do, any questions from any commissioners or council members about any of the priorities or? No, we'll keep things moving. So who's going first on this one?
I think Jim's actually going to go first and talk a little bit about some of the work King County has done around coordination of parking.
So one of the opportunities we had with the addition of Health and Human Services and the addition of the parking deck was to take a strategic look at parking. We hear a lot that there is no parking downtown, that there are plenty of reasons for people not to park downtown, not because they can't find any place or to come downtown. So we took an opportunity to work with the city and with Explore Asheville to see what could we do to, one, make people aware that there is parking, and then to leverage the additional parking that was coming online with the addition of the parking deck at Health and Human Services. We did know that there are lots of things that the city has done around making sure that the number of spaces are available downtown, that signage is a big thing, and making sure that we have uniform signage so that someone coming downtown sees one sign that they know that they can park here. And so when we looked at that, we realized that there is a lot more parking that's coming downtown as a result of that deck. And in the county alone, we are having about 1,800 parking spaces downtown as a result of the addition to Health and Human Services. One of the areas is the South Slope. So when we look at South Slope with the addition of the Cox Avenue parking deck, that's adding 664 additional parking spaces. And one thing that we found out was that people were thinking that that parking deck was solely for Health and Human Services and no one else could park there. And that's not true. That parking deck is available 24/7, 365. And it's already open and to very good reviews so far. We anticipate that we'll be able to offer not only the hourly parking that we have now, but we anticipate monthly parking. We want to make sure we get a little bit under our belt first to see how that is working out, to know exactly how many monthly parking spaces that we can have. But the idea is by adding that, we're adding significant parking availability to the South Slope. When we look at surface parking on the South Slope, we're seeing that we're adding, because of that deck, we're freeing up additional space that was used for both recipients of our services and our staff. So we're adding about 340 a little more surface level parking that will always be available 24/7, 365. And one surface parking lot that's right beside Ben's Tune-Up across from our tax department that's available at nights and weekends. And they're all available for hourly parking, and the surface parking will be available monthly. When we look at additional county parking, we've got 650 spaces at the College Street deck where we were, and Family Justice Center, which is right across. So that totals up 1,798 additional parking. With the signage that we're having, the signage that's the same across downtown, And with using the app, we believe that this will be a big driver, not only for people that work and live downtown, but also for people that are coming to visit downtown. So one of the, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I do. This is a quantum leap for parking downtown, so it's a welcome improvement. I'm glad we're doing it in partnership. While this effort's taking place, the city has been doing a pilot at Grove Arcade with smart meters. Have any of you tried those smart meters? You know what I'm referring to? The smart meters will be installed all through downtown, some 700 meter spaces over the next year, this coming year. And we'll do that in batches of 100 to 200 each. But what they do is allow you to pay for your parking in addition to by coins for the debit or credit card. And they will also give you a reading as to whether or not you paid it. Currently, if you use the app, while it accepts your money, you don't see the verification on the meter, so you'll be able to see that now. So this will be a real welcome benefit to people that are already using the app to be able to do this with the latest technology. We're also looking at our decks, which get quite a bit of use daily, hourly, and for monthly parking purposes, looking at bringing more automation into them as well. So that's where we're headed with parking, and so our combined efforts are really going to make a difference.
Jim, if I could ask a question, are the county's decks, are you all looking at doing what the city has done in terms of signage on the outside that says X number of spaces available, and then very importantly, linking that to an app and a website so that people can look before they leave home about where their space is available? And ideally, all that information would be on the same page.
Right. We are looking at making sure that that information is available in an app, sort of as a phase 2. We want to see about having the signage that says this is how many spaces are available. But the parking vendor that we use will be able to feed the information of the number of available spaces in the deck to the same place, or to the public. I'm not exactly sure how that works, to be able to show that. So people will be able to have it on a map as well as to be able to see how many are available. So another great partnership that we're in the middle of right now is with our Buncombe County library system. So there are 12 libraries here. Half of those are within the city of Asheville, and 2 of those are on city-owned property and or city buildings right now. One of the ones that we're working on currently is East Asheville, and I'm sure hopefully you've been a part of or seen that we've had numerous listening sessions in the East Asheville area about what the residents want in a library. And one of the things that we've heard loud and clear is they want a library, but they also want community space to be able to have places for them to have the meetings. So we engaged in discussions with the city who is working with us on developing this East Asheville site where the current library is and the fire station, and to be able to look to have a 15,000 square foot facility that incorporates a new library as well as the additional community space. This slide here has a picture of what the existing space looks like now. I will say the dates here, we had a great meeting this morning with the city from planning, and so those dates are going to change a little bit because we're actually going to be able to look at some better usage of the land to be able to get a better, we think, a better space. So that will push that out maybe a couple months, but it's a great opportunity for us to really listen to the community and get a library that the community wants. So on the next slide, what you'll see is not what the final design will be, but just wanted to share this with you so that you would see what the residents of the area say they want in their library. And so this it's a very exciting opportunity for us, and the city is working with us very closely to make sure that we are able to have the space that we need and able to use that for a long time. Garrett?
Yeah, Jim, let me add, this will be coming back to the council and the commission because what we're exploring is dividing the property. If you could go back a slide, you can see where there's a fire station on the front of the property and the center, and then parking, and then court and a playground area, a picnic area. What we think would work best is to divide the property allow for the future fire station reconstruction and renovation, but turn the back of the property in a long-term lease over to the county to manage in a comprehensive way. Be responsible for the buildings, the parking, and the outside areas, and we just need to get some assistance relocating the basketball court, which gets some use. We think that can be done at another location nearby in East Asheville. So that would make it clean, whose property is whose and how they are going to be managed. If people have issues, which they do from time to time, about who do I contact about the playground, who do I contact about the parking. And so one manager over this side of the property, one manager on the other side of the property is what we think we'll recommend to council and partnership. Thanks, Jim.
We'll say residents are so very excited about this library, very excited.
And Jim, how large is the current library?
It's probably
Approximately.
in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot area right now, because we're in one part of that, then there's the courtyard, and currently where the community space is the city leases that too.
I just wanted to ask that because it's just a sort of, it's a significant expansion. I mean, been a great library for a long, long time, but it's obviously been outgrown, and so it's just going to give everyone a lot more elbow room out there.
I think next we're going to talk about opioids.
Yes. As the mayor said, I think county is very impacted by the current opiate addiction, both in terms of health and human services, but also first responders and law enforcement. We ran numbers for a single year, and some of this would include city costs for law enforcement and first responders, about a $19 million a year impact in our county currently because of opioid addiction. So certainly something that's driving both our health and human service system, both of our law enforcement systems, our detention center, as well as our healthcare system and first responders. The city partners with us in a safety net. Both of your chiefs, fire and police, participate, which monthly brings together everybody from every sector of the healthcare, education, first responder, law enforcement, behavioral health system to develop strategies around how do we move forward on this being our primary public health challenge at this point. Focused on a painkiller task force, what we know, what data clearly shows us, both local and national data, is individuals begin taking opiates prescribed by a doctor, and many of them, when that's no longer available or affordable, turn to illegal substances such as heroin. We're certainly seeing that in our community. There's a Western North Carolina Regional Substance Abuse Alliance that's developing strategies all across Western North Carolina, and is a part of that monthly meeting. We invest in drug court. The opportunity for the court to provide individuals treatment as an alternative, and community services an alternative to active sentence time. Medicated assisted therapies, really the only way that research says you can address this addiction, and very expensive and not available to people without insurance. Harm reduction and overdose response teams we partnered with. We're both very active in prevention and community engagement around opiates. We've done public education programs. I do believe the number of physicians and dentists that have been trained across the Western region is over 1,000. About how their prescribing patterns impact this addiction. Done school-based education campaigns. Have educated coaches. One of the things we see most often is youth who are injured in a sport go into an orthopedic or other medical provider and are given a prescription for opiates. I'll say, when I had a break an ankle in my house, I was thrilled that the orthopedic surgeon said, he said both to my 14-year-old and me, here's the impact of my prescribing opiates. So that's a real change in how our community's addressing that, and feel like that's a really important first step. Have scheduled, working with the two school systems, a youth summit. City's involved in that along with the county. How do we do education for youth and their parents about the impact of opiates and about how that can and often does lead to the use of illegal drugs. Both of our law enforcement agencies have been very involved in drug take-back programs. We share an anti-crime task force. And as the chairman indicated, we were the first county in North Carolina to file a lawsuit related to this issue. I think Gary's going to talk a little more specifically about the way the city partners.
Well, it's great to partner with you all on this and be involved in the task force responses. And we have a more comprehensive list of partnerships. Some of those are mentioned at the back of this presentation, but just at the council as well as the commission. Patrol supervisors, school resource officers, the downtown patrol unit, and our housing units all are equipped now with Narcan, trained to use that in case of overdose, as well as all our fire trucks, apparatus have and supplied with that and the training, so they're in a position to respond in case of an emergency. It's the best we can do under those circumstances, and then getting them to medical attention if they will accept it. But we wanted to make sure that we're able to immediately respond and join with county sheriff and the ambulance operations to get to people and save lives.
We're both going to talk about some, I'm sorry.
That's fine. So I just want to back up, make a couple comments on this. For those of you that don't know, Commissioner Frost and Commissioner Fryer have been going out into the community along with Mayak and presenting some hard facts about this to the community. Yeah, it's I've been to several of them myself. It's been very well received. I would encourage the city, if you're not doing that, to do that, because you're getting out in front of it. It's going to be a long time before we see positive results, on a big scale. But already we've seen results in individuals' lives, where lights are going off. They're recognizing that, they don't need to start, or how they can come off of the problem. It's been in churches. It's been in, the walls are being broken down between organizations, and everybody's trying to work together in the outlying areas in the county. It's a big deal, and I want to publicly thank them for starting that and opening the doors in all the districts out in the county to be able to spread that message, get out in front of it. Every family in this room is touched by this, I'm sure. And so we can't. And two, let me give you an advertisement for the information. If you've not seen the presentation, if you just see it as council members and others, if you just see it for a couple of times, you'll have it. It'll change your thought process. It'll be something that you'll carry with you, that you can talk to the public or to individuals or to youth groups or something on your own. And it's I'd encourage you. There's power in that information. I'd encourage you to get a copy of it, look at it, attend one of them. It'll change. It'll change. Not that you're not doing a great job. Everybody's doing the best that we can, but it's great information. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody in the room knew that. And it's easily accessible. So I'll hush.
Thanks for saying that. I think what really hit home when we did those town halls was stressing that creating an empathy factor, that nobody wants to wake up in the morning and be a drug addict. And Lisa, Evie, and May had worked on the PowerPoint together, and when you look at those numbers and realize that the majority of people now addicted to heroin started with a legal prescription, and it was very impactful, and it kind of went all over. But I think the biggest thing that people got out of that was it affects all of us, and nobody chooses this path, and empathy was about.
And that's probably part of it. Invite many of the city council members, if we do have another one, to come, because it brings a lot of light, big time. It's a big problem. It's not going away anytime soon, but the best we can do is the best we can do. If we can talk to 5 people, that's better than nothing. So that's the way I look at it.
The personal stories are very impactful.
Oh, yeah. And some of the people that's in what's summarized, You know, they came out and spoke about, you know, what they've gone through as far as drug addiction and all that. And these are some good people that's really working hard to get off drugs. And, you know, just like Mr. Clemens said over there, they have drug rehab, you know, out in this place. So anybody that's helping in that area, I appreciate everything they're taking good.
Just to talk about, I want to begin by saying Dr. Mullen is here. And a lot of a professor at UNCA who worked for years on a state of Black Ash report using students. And one of its challenges were, as classes changed, you know, keeping the document up to date and current was a challenge. So we partnered by hiring Tom Tavit, who does some data analysis for us every year, to work with Dr. Mullen to update the state of Black Ash where the commissioners heard it just a little over a year ago. Give a summary in your packets, and we will send you the link to the full report. It's rather lengthy, but it's driven a lot of our work. And what it basically said is from the point of preconception health, how healthy are women before they get pregnant, all the way to end of life, the big disparities in outcomes in our communities. We own a great deal of how we move forward with that strategically as a health and human service provider. So we really began, and the commission began from a place of saying, we're investing a lot of money in traditional programs and we're not seeing the change we'd like to see. So Lisa Evie led a lot of national research along with Rashida McDaniels and the community engagement team. Really found that the models that are working across the nation are investing in neighborhoods and communities. Not saying, here's an array of government services that are downtown, come access them, but saying, how do we live in neighborhoods and communities and provide more equitable access to everything from preconception health to early childhood education to healthcare to educational opportunities to jobs. So that's been a focus of a lot of our work. A lot of that done through our community engagement team, so they are the liaisons in those neighborhoods who receive the Isaac Coleman grants that the chairman mentioned. We also have seen amazing results from something that we received through a federal grant 2 counties in the nation received that supported tipping grants, really small amounts of money, under $5,000 that went to neighborhood groups to give lift to organizations and leaders that already lived in those neighborhoods and communities and were doing some really creative things and having great results that needed support to do that work. And those have been some of our more successful investments. Also, you know, we partner with the city on along with Mission Hospital, MAHEC, both school systems, UNCA and AV Tech, on the WNC Diversity Engagement Coalition, looking at how do we support a diverse workforce. We just in the last couple of weeks, our 2 HR offices have been having a discussion and are moving forward with a city-county ally group for professionals of color. One of the things we often see is we're successful in recruitment, but do individuals find support they need to stay in this community, and are they able to make the links for their partners in their when they move to our community in terms of professional opportunities? So working together across our 2 professional staffs to enhance efforts already underway. We have benefited from the work the city began around both the Diversity Supplier Network and are fully engaged in that, as well as the Mountain Community Capital Fund. Commissioners dramatically changed our economic incentive policy to be more focused on impact in the community, and also made a decision to invest a portion of that money in small business loans and early childhood education. So partnering with the city in that effort, and grateful for that. Extremely grateful for the work the city did in Kayla and allowing us to join in that in funding. I think Erica does an amazing job with that, and the statistics for those youth, both on the high school and now expanding into the college level, are something that the city should be very proud of, and we're grateful for the opportunity to partner there. And as I said, some of our funding directed at early childhood education. City has been a partner in that county. One of the things that Chairman didn't mention is we've partnered in how do we provide infrastructure to increase slots? One of those partnerships is between the Christina Avery Learning Center, the Asheville City Schools, and the county. So taking a faith-based environment, providing the qualified teacher and technical assistance through the Asheville City School and the infrastructure funding through the county. And we cut the ribbon on that a couple of weeks ago, and Commissioner Whiteside made the point. This really is about investing in something to avoid building a new jail, and that's what the data tells us. Early childhood education is the best predictor of avoiding growth in our jail population and people's involvement in the criminal justice system. We are working through the African American Heritage Commission. We each have staff involved in that, and Rashida's doing that through the community engagement team on building out a historic markers art project that is really preserving cultural past and supporting cultural identity.
Can I add something here before we move on? One of the highlights for me coming on the commission, the time I came on and what we've gone through this last year, is what we have been doing and what they were working on before I got on board with the equity efforts. It's great. But one of the downers for me in everything that we're doing, you know, it seems like we take 5 steps forward, but we take 10 steps backwards. It's the phone calls that I'm getting for what happened here in this community with our police force. I hate to put a damper on our meeting, but folks, this is something we've got to talk about and we've got to deal with. I've been back in Asheville since 1971. And of course, I was here before most of them because I was born and raised here. But I have never seen the morale as low as it is now, and not just in the African American community, but all over. I'm even getting phone calls from buddies of mine who I was in the Navy with that I hadn't heard from in 20 years, complaining about what in the hell is going on in Asheville. And it's time now, as a taxpayer and as a citizen of Asheville, if we're going to be successful in any equity efforts, we've got to move all the roadblocks that stand in our way. And one of the big roadblocks, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, over the last 50 years or so that I've been back, is the Asheville Police Department. And I've been affected myself when I was stopped in 1989 with me and my family saying that they were looking for drugs. And one of the policemen who stopped me, I approved the car loan for him 3 weeks before. So we've reached a point, this is going, we talk about the $2 billion that we pulled in tourist business last year, a year before, whenever it was. But if we don't solve this problem, it's going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Because people, this is uncovering what is going on in Asheville. And it's going to be up to us as elected officials. It's got to be handled and approved. We can't keep pushing it down the road saying it's the police chief's fault, it's the Civil Service Board or whatever. I voted for all you council, and I expect you all to solve this problem. Just like you voted for us as commissioners, and we are dealing with the problems we've inherited. But this is something, folks, as an African American who lived in this community all his life, I'm sick and tired of what's been going on, and I'm sick and tired of the comments or the excuses I get. I don't want to hear it. Because what really gets me more than anything, I know justice is slow. But why in the hell is it so slow when it's dealing with me? So let's get something done about it. I mean, you know, I'm one that I don't believe in pulling in punches. You probably know that. I believe in being above board and putting everything on the table. But we have got to do it. We've got to deal with it. And we've got to stop talking about what we're going to do and do it. You know, it's time to back up our talk. And when I look at it takes half a year to get rid of an officer that probably should have been gone 2 or 3 years ago, it's no excuse. I'm through with my editorial comment. Thank you.
have the honor of also representing District 1, and want to begin, Al, by thanking you for your comments and your honesty. I think honesty is the only way through for us as a community, and empathy is also a key part of how we'll move through this as a community. I have also been hearing from a lot of constituents, in addition to expressing anger and intense frustration with how slow justice has been become. One thing I hear is a lot of fear, and I particularly hear that fear from parents who are raising young black children and young black boys in our community. And I take that incredibly seriously. Every child in our community and every person in our community needs to be safe and treated with respect and dignity, whatever street they're walking on, whatever time of day. Al said much more powerfully than I can, I think, some of the things that need to be said today, but I want to just share a few other things. As a community member, I had the opportunity to participate in a working group that APD convened looking at use of force and de-escalation policies. Julie was on that working group. Other folks in the room may also have participated. And I will say, I think that the adoption of those policies by APD was a step in the right direction. I'd like to raise and put on the table that I think those are policies that should be adopted by every law enforcement agency within Buncombe County at the municipal and county level, and that this most recent incident has cast in stark relief that those policies alone don't do enough. And there are some additional specific interventions we need to look at a systems level. One of those is cross-agency protocols and use of force issues to ensure that from the DA's office to every law enforcement agency, when a use of force issue surfaces, there's specific protocols in place around opening criminal investigations and notifying the SBI or other appropriate authorities. That's a step we need to take in our communities, and not at the singular level of one department, at a systems level. The other, I think, is recognizing the role that trauma plays in a moment like this for individuals who are impacted, and in some use of force situations also for officers and law enforcement agents who are involved with that. Beginning to apply some of the trauma-informed work that the city has done, that the county departments have done, into the way we respond in use of force incidents, I think is also important. The final thing I want to say is that I also know there are many law enforcement folks who take their jobs very seriously and who show up each day to serve and who put their lives on the line to keep parts of our community safe. That's true at the same time, and I think part of our task as a community is to be able to be honest about the fact that many things are true at once right now. I see this as much of a crisis as the opiate epidemic in our community, and one I'm as committed to working on responding to across agencies, across communities, across party lines, across faith traditions, until we get it right.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm very glad that Dr. Mullen is here. What happened is not a one-off. When you look at the state of Black Asheville, the diminishing numbers, I've had African American men say to me, "Why would I stay?" My daughter's father stays in Asheville simply until she graduates from high school. We collectively, I know we have the will, we have the capacity to change these numbers that Dr. Mullen has systematically over years portrayed. I had a granddaughter that was in Asheville City Schools, and because of the color of her skin, she was ignored. Now she's getting straight A's at the Asheville school. We can, as a community, we care about it, but when I've talked to different people in the county about the numbers in the state of Black Asheville, people are amazed. They didn't know. So if there's any silver lining in anything, everybody knows now, and I know this community can do amazing things. But we have to do it in the lens of, as we look at African American men and women in this room, they've probably been targeted. They've probably been discriminated against. There's no probably. I know one person whose son, in one semester, going to UNCA, got stopped by the police 11 times. I know my daughter's father, because he dresses well and has a nice car, who is the son of a law enforcement officer in the sheriff's department, got put down on his hands and knees. I know my daughter and he, when they were dating, and they would get continually stopped. and she would cry, and he would say, stop crying, they're gonna think I kidnapped you. This is not in Mississippi, this is Nashville. This is a community we all love. And we can't look at those numbers in the state of Black Asheville and continue to do as we are. We can't be complacent, because this is, and thank you, this is a crisis, because we're losing a whole community. And while we're losing that community, they're in trauma. So.
I have one thing to say on this, and I've talked to Al about it. Both of us, I think, are above the age of 70. I remember
You don't
when,
have to advertise.
but I remember when I was very young, in my teens. The blacks were on this side of the track, and the whites were on this side of the track. We integrated in a school in Kentucky in 1963. It took a little while to get used to, but we have worked to get ourselves in the center of the tracks. And I talked to Dr. Locke about this before he died. And I personally, what happened the other night, there's a responsibility, just like this as commissioners. We have a responsibility for what happened with our last county manager. Whether we voted for it or we didn't vote for it, we're responsible. I appreciate this gentleman. This color has nothing to do with anything. You back up, Asheville's diverse, okay? My brother, 37 years ago, opened up a nightclub called Scandals. It's a gay bar. My brother was gay, but I loved him. This gentleman here can go anywhere with him. But I am so damn sick of people trying to divide us again. That's what I'm tired of. I am not going to be divided because I don't look at the color, I look at the people. And that's what I'm at. I want to help everyone. I don't care what color. On the board of trustees at AV Tech, I want to try to get kids in over there from school. I know this is a tough issue, but I would love to see some go through it, want to be welders or mechanics or work on trucks or learn how to be machinists. This is things that I really want to see, and I'm really worked hard at, and I'll continue as long as I'm around to work. But me and him, you're not going to divide us. I promise you. We're in the center of the tracks, and we're not coming apart. Thank you. But it's y'all's responsibility. Take responsibility for something. There was an election that happened after that happened.
So Rachel, are you leaving thoughts for us? I'm really gonna turn it over to Gary and only briefly mention, I think, in the last 8 months, you're certainly an example of that for me, is that sometimes our best work is when we face the greatest challenges, and the Justice Resource Center and the Family Justice Center are examples where the city and county came together jointly because we knew our community wasn't able to make the impact we wanted in addressing both family violence and in the example of the Justice Resource Center. We knew that that many low-level, first-time offenders, low-risk first-time offenders were serving active time in our jails and detention centers versus being connected to needed services. City school resource officers were partnered with the Sheriff's Department school resource officers to begin a diversion program for our youth, and over the last year, 34 children across this is our first year in this pilot, across the county and city schools who would have been charged with a crime were offered diversion services, successfully completing their school year and moving on with their lives versus being impacted by a criminal charge. So very grateful for the city's willingness to partner in both those initiatives. The only other thing I would say about Justice Resource Center, because I know we're running short on time, is we would welcome the opportunity to take any of the council to tour that coordinated center on the 15th floor of the courthouse if you're interested, and see how our district attorney and judges and law enforcement are connecting individuals with services. And through that work, we're able to avoid people with mental illness, and people who are first-time low-risk offenders, serving time versus connecting to jobs and services. So appreciate the partnerships on both of those. And Gary, I know you had a few things.
I think it's been said. So the council, Boards and Commissions Committee today heard about the Blue Ribbon Task Force recommendations, and they're moving ahead on forming a Human Relations Advisory Committee or Commission, and the city's staff efforts will be to follow up on looking at the protocols, getting with the district attorney, and getting that nailed down, as well as a long list of inquiries and reviews that council has initiated in order to help them facilitate that happening. I think the next thing we want to do, and I'm really not the best person to speak about this, is the Energy Innovation Task Force.
If we can go back to the Justice Resource Center, I think what's important for everybody to understand is, again, we based a lot of this data on Dr. Mullins' work, and there were some in the community who thought we should build a new jail, and for $48 million. And that was a big impetus of why we chose jail diversion, hopefully making this a national model for jail.
And there were also people who wanted to build a new natural gas peaking plant in Buncombe County. So it's kind of a similar idea, you know, you gotta invest in one thing or another, right? I mean, in some ways, there was, joking aside, there was kind of a similar impetus here where we were facing this proposal from our utility to build it, in addition to the base load gas plant that they're planning to construct, to also build a more than $100 million peaking plant that would be paid for by ratepayers, all of us in Buncombe County. So that's part of what led us. I guess it's been almost over 2 years ago that we created this pretty unique structure where we have a joint a commission that's jointly appointed by the City Council and County Commission. I guess we have a few others. There's like the Historic Resources Commission has some shared membership, but this is pretty unique. And so Julie and I have been representing our two bodies there, and then Duke, of course, Jason Walls and Robert Sipes represent Duke on the board, and then there's a whole big, great group of community members involved in this. So Julie, would you like to just make a few comments about kind of where we're at on this?
We've been doing some relatively recent briefing of City Council on this effort, so I won't dive into that too much again, but what I will say is that we are, we have been moving from planning to implementation, and next week we officially launch the Blue Horizons Project, which is the public-facing campaign that has come out of the 2 years of work that the Energy Innovation Task Force has done. There will be a press conference on Wednesday morning, and then a community reception on Thursday evening at the Eddington Center from 4 to 6. And we invite all of you to come to that. We've got there. That is an image from the website, and it's bluehorizonsproject.com. I encourage you all to go there. And really, the goal of this campaign is to generate excitement for everyone to get involved, and to also make it easy for people to get involved. So this is a little bit of a one-stop shop that we're encouraging people to go to figure out what you can do around energy efficiency for your home, for your business. We also talk about the specific low-income efforts that are a part of this program, which are significant, and we're very happy about that. So just, this, as Brownie said, there was the community was presented with a threat, in my mind, of an additional fossil fuel plant, and this has been our response to it, and we both appreciate the resources that our fellow council members and commissioners have put toward addressing this threat, and I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to be successful. It will take many of us in the community to participate in these programs and to reach this goal, but we can do it. I don't think there's any doubt that we can do do it. We need everybody to participate. So again, hope people can come. Eddington Center, 4 o'clock on Thursday. Learn more about it and meet some of the other folks who've been involved.
The press conference, I think, as Julie said, I think there was a press release sent out earlier today by the group, and it's kind of a creative effort. It's going to be held in the home of a senior citizen who was in Kenilworth, who is currently having his home retrofitted by Energy Savers Network, which we're all supporting. The volunteer labor is being provided by a group of students from UNC Asheville. So it's just kind of it's going to be a really cool, kind of different kind of event to sort of officially kind of launch this into the public arena. So appreciate everyone's support for it.
So Chairman, I'm glad you ended with that statement, because I was going to challenge the group that for these large-scale efforts, you know, dealing with Duke Energy and others, and you know, those things are important. We don't need to forget in Buncombe County that there are people living in very old, very, very modest homes that are struggling to pay the power bill because they have a 15 kW furnace. They have windows that are 40 years old. And the Energy Savers Network, churches, other organizations, council, commissioners, we can make sure we can go down to that level, because the other level's big, and you know, you throw money at it, and you know, it makes headlines, and but there's we can make a major, and we may or may not be able to achieve what we would like as individuals with, you know, whether it's student or whoever it is. But we can make a difference in 5 or 6 homes, you know, in a month, and that can change generations when you can bring them out of it. You give them an opportunity where they can live in a warm home. It makes a difference. We don't need to. It's easy to forget those people. Now, as one commissioner, you know, we talk about it a lot. I had a lady come in the other day, it was from the Hispanic community, and was challenging us in being very careful to not run all the mobile home parks out of the county, because they need a place to stay. So we have to look at what we have and make sure that we are inclusive of, you know, of some of those people that are challenged from the income in the situation. Thanks for mentioning that. They do good work, and we need to, whether it's with them or others, we need to expand that thought process where we're going and helping some of the widows and some of the people that are struggling.
Well, and let me mention one other thing. So one of the programs that Duke has is called the Neighborhood Energy Savers Program. They're coming to town next week. And there, again, there's a community dinner to launch that project. The community that they have chosen is over in the Deerview Johnston Elementary School. So it covers both city and county. It crosses that line. And the goal is to do about, I think it's about 1,000 homes in the, I'm not sure how long they stay, but it's really just it's a few weeks. To do about 1,000 homes. These are light retrofits, but they're still meaningful. And the most important thing is that will get us into 2,000. Jeremiah is saying 2,000. Do I have 3,000? 2,000 homes in that relatively small area. So you know, Joe, we're not talking 5 or 6 homes. We're talking, and with Energy Savers and community action opportunities, I mean, we're talking.
So how did I miss that?
Hundreds and hundreds and well over 2,000.
How did I miss it?
It's a program that kind of roams around the state. It hadn't been in this area for a while, but there's been so much community like, Duke, what can we do? You know, they're like, all right, we need to bring this back to Buncombe County. So it's a big deal, and it doesn't happen everywhere every year. So there's just been, since it hasn't been a priority, I think that's part of how they chose to bring it back to Buncombe County this year.
And again, the launch of that is actually this Thursday at 6 o'clock, and it's at the Holiday Inn West out on Smoky Park. And that'll be a community dinner with, again, members of the community invited to learn more about what's going to happen in their neighborhood over the next few weeks. And what's really important here is that this program will allow us to get into these homes this program doesn't do kind of deep retrofits or even all of the stuff that Energy Savers Network does, but by being deep in this community, it'll allow us to identify those homes that we can then pass on to Energy Savers and Community Action Opportunities and some of the other groups that do those deeper retrofits. So we're, again, so 6 o'clock Thursday night, Holiday Inn West.
All right. The mayor just reminded me that we're running out of time.
Yeah, in an effort to move forward, the last area we were going to highlight in terms of partnership, because it's on both bodies' strategic goals, was affordable housing. But let me just move through this real quickly and then kick it back to you because there are topics that you want to talk about for the remaining 25 or so minutes. So we're involved heavily in trying to leverage the consortium and everybody's at the table with that. There are key projects. Next slide, we can highlight for you notable county projects. There are also notable city projects that are being done in housing trust funds. These are just a couple of examples. A big partnership of ours is with Eagle Market Street. And I think everybody's well aware that that project is rapidly moving toward completion. Yay.
I need to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Did you go get tax credits on that building?
Mountain housing?
Yeah, that.
Yes.
And it basically.
Not me, but.
Well, the city approved something in that building that they won't approve for us. They approved temporary room, a house, part of it, a building. It's got a number on the door. It says it is an apartment, and that's the way you took tax credits. They didn't get done in time, so they have to put one building that don't have a sidewalk, it's got a pallet. We can't get a temporary CFO, couldn't get one on Cox Avenue from the city. So the city is making their own rules to what they get. You got money tied up in it. It's a 5-year deal and it's going. I've got pictures of the room that has no paint in it. It's concrete, it has nothing on the floor, it's just got a stove and stuff. It's got a sink that's held up to the floors. And they call it an apartment that can be rented.
Would you like us to take a look at that and figure out?
Well, I'd like to see why that they used one room as a project to take money from the government that somebody couldn't finish. And I don't think it's gonna be finished on time, and I don't see where we need to spend the $2 million that we've set on for 5 years on something that's half done.
Well, let me work with the county manager to get the commission and the council to answer any questions. Okay? So, the city council has gotten referendum approval for housing bonds, and one of the main targets for that is Lee Walker Heights. In addition, there's money that's been put in, additional money that's available through the Housing Trust Fund, and we've been trying to work with the community to stimulate interest in a community land trust. The last thing I'll note before turning it back to you all is the effort to look at city-owned land. It's a major component of the housing bond program, and we're in the process of evaluating multiple sites to see if we can't bring more affordable housing to those. And as we move through that process, we'll continue to communicate with county staff, and we see opportunities for more partnerships and joint funding of projects. Lee Walker Heights is a great example of that. Just the last slide, and then turn it back to you to talk about future partnerships you want to pursue. You have at your place a list, a more comprehensive list. What we've covered tonight are highlights that align with the kind of the specific areas of strategic focus that both bodies have. But as you can see in the sheet that you have in front of you, we're working quite a bit in public safety. There have been a number of joint boards from the African American Heritage to other groups that have been formed to try to move forward collaboratively. The Asheville Area River Community Development Commission has really been our resource as we move forward with redevelopment of the river. And you see the list goes on and on. And so we're anxious to hear how the commission and the council want to pursue such things as joint redevelopment, transportation, and planning, and other opportunities. So that's what we have covered for you. Anything to add?
No, you did a great job.
Is that a cue for me? Well, first off, I appreciate the opportunity for everyone to get together here. I think it's a great opportunity and one that I certainly welcome. It's nice to be sitting up here as a council member, not as a member of the public, asking for help on something. One of the areas in particular that I wanted to just raise to this group is this issue of joint development and land use planning. As most of us know, there's a lot of development going around the county and the city right now, quite a bit. And what's happening in particular in some parts of the city, especially I'll say down in the southern part, is we're running into situations where we're getting projects that are being proposed that are literally surrounded, that are being proposed within the county development rules, but are literally surrounded by the city of the property. And those are completely different rules. I should say completely, but they are different. For example, something that could be built in the county, Gary always reminds me the cities in the county, I'll be clear about that, wouldn't be able to be built in the city. And one example that came to a head last year that I know a lot of you are aware of was what happened on Overlook Road. I know you all got many emails. Commissioner Pelcher and Presley went to a public meeting and we really heard from folks about this. And that's not responsible land use plan. That's not a good thing to have in terms of that. So we used to have a mechanism for that called ETJ, right, extraterritorial jurisdiction. The city of Asheville does not have that. Other cities across the state do. The state legislature took that away from us. So now we're sort of stuck, right? It's now kind of in our corner, and taxpayers and residents are kind of looking to us to say, what on earth can you do about it? So my point here, just really to raise the group, is to think about, to have the city and the county sit down and talk about, and I'm not talking about this county-wide, I'm really not, I want to be clear about that, but in some of these areas, to think about better coordinating our land use and our zoning, so that we can ensure whatever development goes there is rational. I'm not saying it should be, we should adopt what the city's standards are, or the city should adapt what the county standards are, but I think we really need to sit down, especially in the parts of the city where the development is occurring and where people driving down the street literally don't know, and you literally can't tell whether or not you're within the city development rules or within the county development rules.
Yeah. That puts an issue up. We've got Black Mountain. We've got Wood. We've got Waverly. I think they're all cities in our jurisdiction. Why should we stand up for one? Because it splits in them too. It's no different in them. So do they want to come to us and do something different? No. We are Buncombe County. We're not the city of Asheville. We're for all. That's where we're at.
I think I would hope that, if other municipalities want to do some joint planning with the county, I would hope we'd be equally open to the idea with them as well, because I think there's probably going to be a need for that as well. Because what's that?
I'd like to know why.
Why should we do joint planning? Well, in my mind, I think the main reason is that we just, we know that the countywide, including all the municipalities, we're just experiencing a ton of growth. You're right. And that's just one project. There's been multiple projects like that. Every time there's a big project in the south, we hear a ton of concerns. So the whole county's growing a lot. We're going to add, like 30 or 40,000 additional households to the community over just the next 10, 15 years. So, we're not growing as fast as Raleigh or Charlotte, but with the mountain topography, we just really don't have that much buildable land, so it's all getting kind of put into these valleys where, in a lot of cases, you have just one main corridor coming in, like Sweet Creek and Hendersonville Road, everything's getting funneled there. So, we're not growing as fast as some other cities, but I think particularly from a transportation and congestion standpoint, it feels just as much like that traffic is getting as bad here as in some of these other cities that are growing even faster. So I'm certainly, I guess my perspective is I think planning won't really work in a lot of parts of the community if we don't do some joint planning. If the city just comes up with its own plan and we come up with our own plan, but they're not kind of looking forward towards where can we support growth in what areas, if they get overdeveloped, are really going to jeopardize quality of life in ways I think we'll all regret in the future. I think we're I think we will have, we will have failed on this very important issue. So I'm supportive of it. I think ultimately, we each have to make our own decisions. I think we'll each have our own plan, but I just hope they're informed by good communication between our departments and, and by elected officials in terms of, sharing, what do we want the Asheville and Buncombe County to look like in 20 years? If we're not talking about that, I really feel like we're missing one of the key challenges that our citizens would like to see us work on.
I think it's very important to work collaboratively, because right now it's a problem in South Asheville. Pretty soon it will be a problem in Black Mountain, Swannanoa, and I think the more we can work collaboratively as a county together, the further ahead we'll be, because everybody talks about the difference that it used to be. Well, to make it so it's not an ugly monster that nobody recognizes in 20 years, we've got to work together.
So we could be on this all day, which we're not going to have time to do that, but I think one of the things we have to remember in Buncombe County, comparing it to other counties, is you got to look at the interstate system. You got 26, you got 40. 26 and 40 are when those new Liberty Road exchange is done, exit 44, all those things are expanded and changed. That's going to dramatically impact all the shortcuts that people are taking. So that, we can't forget that. That has to be part of our thought process. And because we know if you've lived here for 30 years, you lived here for 20 years or something like that, you know that if you know a shortcut, you're not divulging it. We don't tell nobody, I got one too, I'm not gonna tell you what they are. But and the people that overlook the road knew this, I told them that I don't take overlook road because it's a shortcut you can't afford to take. But there's times I go from South Asheville, there's times that I decide, instead of get on 26, if I'm in Skyline, I go down 25 and go 40. And so the interstate, the changes in the interstate system is going to make a big difference here.
This will help, but in the short run, it's going to make it even worse. And we saw like the one bridge on 26 getting worked on, it turned it into a nightmare for 2 years. So those transportation improvements will definitely help. But in the meantime, they're going to create.
I think you got to have a conversation.
The worst thing about it, it's going to take a while, but this could have been fixed a long time ago. Because we had groups that fought the interstate, now it's finally coming back. So 4 years past what we should have been getting interstates through here. So, there's damned if you did and damned if you don't. But the county, well, look at it as property owners buy property. There's people pass their property down. Sometimes people have to sell property because they can't pay the taxes. If they have to sell it to somebody that wants to build something like we're talking about, yes, that's bad. But it goes back to property rights. It's not for me to tell anyone what to do with the property. It's up to you to buy it if you don't want them to do something with it as well. So I am not interested in this issue because Black Mountain's not here with us. It's not an actual Buncombe issue. It's a whole county issue. And it's like I said, there's 3 more municipalities tied into this.
But I think what we've got to do, we have got to look to a better job of planning. And it's true the people who own property here, I do, my family. But if we don't do proper planning going forward, the concern I have is what will I pass on to my kids and my grandkids? Because if without the planning, the value of the property is going to go down. And in most portfolios, that's a big asset, is your real estate. But we've got to do, where we want to face it or not, we've got a train wreck, I feel, coming. And if we don't do the proper planning, it's not going to hurt us. It's only going to help us. Because when you look at where we are now and you think about it, folks, we're lucky. Because a lot of it was done by the seat of our pants. But we're in an environment now, though, that won't happen going forward if we don't do a better job of planning. And it's not just Buncombe County, Asheville, and other municipalities. I agree. All have got to sit down to the table together. It would be great to do that. But if we don't do it, we are not, I don't think, exercise, we're not doing our, what, fiduciary duty or whatever you call it, you know, is elected officials. We've got to look out for our constituents. I think this is gonna be important. Whether they live in Shelton Mall or the heart of Asheville, we've got to deal with it sooner or later. And it's better that we do the planning ahead than when we get in a mode where the planning is gonna be done for us just by our constituents. That's my system. Yeah.
Did you draw the short straw to go last weekend?
Me? No, and look, and this is, I think, one of the benefits of getting kind of a group together to be able to talk about it, because I think it's important for people to kind of understand. Again, we don't often talk about these type of, and this is hard. I mean, I'm not pretending that this is something that we're going to sit down for 5 minutes, but I will say this: the folks who I talk to, and I've dealt with a couple of development issues now. It's becoming like a practice of mine. They expect us to do this. They expect us to do it. At least the folks who live down Hendersonville Road, Sweet Creek, Mills Gap, Overlook, Fillmore Park, they expect it. And down in that neck of the woods, we got District 1, 2, and 3. I call them the Bermuda Triangle on Mills Gap roads, right? Where you can literally stand, and you can be District 1, 2, and 3, just down Mills Gap Road. That's where this stuff is really, really exploding. And I'd submit to you, from having talked to a lot of those folks, they understand the difficulty, but they expect us to deal with it.
I will say, one of the commission planning meetings that you have on April 10th is going to look at development, and Nate Pennington, our planning director, and his staff are going to be presenting some information to help and having bring Duke, PSNC, MSD together to look and actually let us all see where the development is likely to occur, where the infrastructure is, and to have that dialogue so that we are all able to see, both from a developer's perspective as well as from a resident's perspective, of where that's going to be.
Well, I mean, you know, we're looking at, in a lot of areas, redesigning to allow more density. I mean, that's a big conversation in the city, right? It really is. Well, when you do that, what does that do? There's more people on the street. So, I mean, all these things we have to have some kind of conversation, because you're right, in that neighborhood, those neighborhoods, it's a conversation all the time.
Right, and the fact of the matter is, it's going to come back to us, right? I mean, whether we like it or not. You're going to get the emails, and we're going to get the emails.
Yeah, I get the emails, I mean, yeah. I think you put some of my signs out there with my number on them.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
No, I'm just kidding. Somebody did, but it was all right. You know, it was a conversation that we had. Robert and I went out there, and you were out there, and it was great to be able to get that input. And that's what's going to make the change, is the input from them, but it's got to be in a practical fashion. I think that's what we're all here. So whatever we look at, so it's very practical. We have to work, you know, across the line. Going back to have an ETJ discussion, that
We were kidding about
that
that.
was amazing.
That was not serious. But I just actually had an opportunity to speak recently to the students there, and this is pretty much the one topic they wanted to talk to me about. So it's, you know, obviously a hot issue down there. And, you know, I would just offer, when you think about planning, I mean, we're offering to do it jointly with you, whatever that looks like. Or you do your thing, we do our thing, and we keep communicating until we're coordinated. I mean, I will tell you, when I go to other cities and meet with mayors that have been in a mayor for 20 or 25 years, Greenville, South Carolina, or Charleston, or places like that, they'll say, now, we started this planning 20 years ago, and that's why there's a park right here, and that's why there's a sidewalk here, and that's why there's bike paths, or there's, you know, whatever infrastructure. So I know you think about zoning and private use of land, but also it has to do with public infrastructure, so that you create and grow a community that's livable for people 20 years from now, and not, why didn't anyone ever think about, well, we were going to want a park down here, or we were going to want, you know, whatever the case may be. Plus, layered on top of the facilities, you're talking about MSD, any kind of, you know, infrastructure you need to make it work. So, and you know, and your zoning system for residential development is very different from ours. We hear applications for apartment complexes now over 50 units, I believe is our threshold. But I think yours goes to the Board of Adjustment, and it's a quasi-judicial process, which, a lot of constituents, well, they don't like either process, but it's even harder in a quasi-judicial process to give your input, so and it's hard for constituents to understand, well, if you're in the city, you get to use this process, and if you're in the county, it's this totally different process. So, I think we're gonna see, everybody knows we're gonna see quite a bit of growth in the South, so however works best for both bodies, I think we're willing to do whatever.
I know the South is back there, but you look at Fairview Road, look at the apartments and stuff, it's all popping up there. It's just a 2-lane road. Going up the hill, and it blends off down in the Biltmore, 2 lanes, So traffic jams there in the morning, I live in Fairview. You go out early in the morning, you got about a 10-minute wait. You go out about an hour later, it's clear. So, an afternoon, you go down here, I leave here, it's blocked going down 240 this way. But I go that way and get out toward Fairview, it's blocked about 10 minutes, and then I'm on 74 going toward home, no problems. Yes, it's bad. I used to live in that district out in that area too, out south. But it goes back to the same thing. Good planning is good planning, but we must not be doing something totally right. Because we all have ideas, and we put them all forward. And every time we do something, the cost of ever building that property and that affordable housing just keeps on going away. So, that's property. Property goes, the value goes up, the more it goes up, that means the poor people don't have something to have. So, I was never for something. For one reason, I came here many years ago, and everything was working good, and then we got it, and it seems like it's run everything out of sight. People telling us what we can do and when we can do it. So, I was tickled to death they took ETJ away because it's telling the city, it's telling people what they could build, but they didn't get to vote for them. And it still needs to stay that way. Thank you for your time.
So we're talking about land use planning, issues, growth, challenges of growth. Transportation is a big part of this, and that's already come up some. There's a number of major projects in the community, new interchanges on 26 and 40 that are going to help a lot, and over in Swanton, Black Mountain, and in Inca, other projects that are going to improve capacity. Again, they'll also create a bunch of construction nightmares while they're happening. But I know that there's, we've certainly heard from folks who are interested in transit issues, core service in the city. We have, services that the county runs through Mountain Mobility as well. It's not as nearly as large of a system, of course, as the city's fixed route system, but I think there's already been some conversation started around kind of, looking at how these things can be best coordinated as well. So I think that's something that we're interested in as well. We've had folks come to some of our public comment and express the desire for more transit services in unincorporated areas. So it's something that's definitely coming up more and more on our side as well, and so it could be an opportunity for collaboration. Some of these different transportation projects, the road projects they're partly in the city and they're partly outside the city. So like the example that came up recently where there would be great to have a sidewalk, but part of it's in the city, part of it's not in the city. So situations like that we're going to have to talk about together, or we might end up having places where you have a sidewalk and then it dramatically stops all of a sudden and doesn't do anybody any good. So we got to, as the mayor said, some of these are just infrastructure projects we need to talk about, figure out what we want to see happen together, and probably in a lot of cases we'll land in probably in a pretty similar place.
Brandon, if I could also just mention in the context of transit and looking at the idea of expanding transit into the county, transit is a key aspect of affordability, and to the degree that we are all concerned about the decreasing affordability of both the city and the areas surrounding the city, enabling people to live here without either driving a car every day or having to have 2 cars for every family or even having to have a car at all makes this city much more affordable. And that is particularly true for people who live farther out. So this is the cost of housing and transportation costs are integrally linked. And so I would encourage us all to remember that because I know that we are all concerned about the affordability, and transit is a key aspect of solving that.
So we have only a few more minutes, and obviously we're not going to solve these issues today, but I think part of what we wanted to do is just have a chance for people to kind of lay issues on the table that we might, want to consider more this year. So are there any other, issues that we haven't talked about that people might want to spend time on? Ms. Lurk?
So I have a few that, there's a few items that I would really like the city and the county to work on, kind of getting an agreement in place that we haven't really written down. And I have a list that the city manager can share with the county manager, and we can just kind of put some pen to paper. But there are two equity issues between the city taxpayers and the county taxpayers that I want to bring up. One that you've all heard from me already about the agreement that we have relative to how much the county charges for collecting real estate taxes. And I think that the city and the county are working together to make that a little more equitable for the city taxpayers. But another issue that has recently come to my attention is that the alcohol beverage tax income, basically, the net income after all the distribution and expenses, is the city's collection of that. 25% of it goes to Buncombe County, and for all the other 3 municipalities in Buncombe County that have ABCs, they do not share any of that income with the county. So,
Glen Mountain does.
yeah. No, I was told not at all.
2 do and 2 don't.
Okay.
And I did call your legal counsel at the state ABC board. It depends on the year in which you incorporated or made your ABC store, what the ratio is, but you are correct that the law now allows the 2 bodies to negotiate that. That wasn't true in the beginning for those who do pay a share. So
And how much is like that?
they pay 25 as well. It's actually written into the law depending on when so Woodfin and Weaverville open theirs after the law changed and don't have that percentage. And Fru is probably somewhere saying, please don't be quoting the law.
So I would just like to kind of look at the equity of that and the fact that, the cities is a pretty large chunk of change. And, how that money's being spent and how that's benefiting city taxpayers, from just looking at it from an equity perspective. So those are just a couple things that I wanted to bring up today.
I'll bring up one before we leave. I don't know if all of you are aware, but you will be hearing about it because the group has been working on this for quite some time now. It's the African American Heritage District, and you've heard about it, where they're looking at putting this in place, and the district would include and connect the historically African American Eagle Market, East End, South Slope, and the South Side communities. And they're even talking about including Stevens Lee Museum, which really is close to me because I'm a graduate from there. But this is something they're talking to T&D Tourism and Development, and I'm sure they'll be reaching out to the county and to the city with this. But this is something I hope we look favorably at because it's going to be a win-win for all of us because it gives our tourists something else to do and it really helps them as far as looking at the history and what African Americans have contributed to Buncombe County, Asheville and Buncombe County.
Picture's still on the wall.
Yeah. The young picture. Yeah. So that's all I want to say.
I have one thing I would like to mention. You all mentioned that the Walker Heights project was probably the single most largest investment you made in affordable housing. I think there's still a fear in the community and in that housing development about displacement. that some of the residents that are promised to return to that area actually won't have that place secured for them. So I know that you all have made pledges towards that investment. I would say that tie that into your funding agreement, that in fact those residents will be able to secure their place.
That's a really good idea.
So that's been part of our conversation.
But I think tying it in,
It's already required by.
but
It's required, but just make it, just spell it out within that agreement, then I think they'll be able to view what that transition plan looks like and kind of hold their feet to the fire.
Great, thank you. All right, we're a little bit past 4:30. But anyone else before we adjourn have any other comments?
I'll throw one out there. I saw in your information in affordable housing, you were talking about tiny homes, which is kind of the trend. That, you know, most of the rendering those are like that industry for 30 years. You don't know that?
We never heard that.
So it's amazing. What's amazing to me is everybody's getting really excited about a small single wide, which you zone out in every corner in the city and the county. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Do not forget about the factory built housing of today and how that it should be an option within the city. It is in larger cities and inner cities in replacement of some of the older houses, and should still be in the county also. So it needs to be out there. We need to get more education on it because we don't have the time.
All right, well, to all our staff and everyone who's here, and commissioners, city council, again, thanks for coming over to be with us today. Thanks for all that you do for us, and we look forward to continuing to follow up on some of the issues we talked about today and other exciting things that I'm sure will come up in that city today. So,
One day we'll host.
yeah.
Whoever find the room.
So before we, so the county's actually not adjourning this meeting. So we have a closed session matter that we need to attend to. And that's right, so I'm saying it now. So Mr. Fruit, could you inform us what we're,
Yes, sir. It might make it easier just to call it here, but I would ask that someone make a motion pursuant to 143, 382, and 11A3 that we go into closed session upstairs to discuss an economic development matter as a legal issue.
Second.
all right, the county commissioners, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, all right, thank you. We're going to close session. Oh yeah, we're going to do